Hey everybody, welcome to the Man of Leek. I'm John as always, and pre-release weekend is over for most of us anyways. By the time this video goes up, I assume most time zones will be done pre-releasing, but who knows? I hope everybody's pre-release went great, and of course I want to hear exactly how you did down in the comments below. But I did two pre-releases at the Gamers Emporium here in London, Ontario. Did one Saturday afternoon. This was our big one. We had 64 people out, record-breaking. Biggest pre-release in the entire city, and we've got a lot of stores in the city. We've got like 6 or 7 different Magic stores that run events, but that of course was a big beefy 6-rounder with door prizes and feature match prizes and etc. This morning, Sunday morning, I played a much smaller one, still at the Gamers Emporium, but only 16 people. We capped it to make sure that we could get a nice quick 4 rounds in, and then there was a second pre-release today that I did not take part in because I'm old, and that's way too much Magic for one weekend for me. Anyways, pre-releases at the Gamers Emporium are always fantastic. We are a great group. I, as the judge, and the store owner, Sean, make great strides to make sure that it is a positive, welcoming environment. No jerks allowed. As a result, we easily have the most diverse group of players in age, in gender, in everything you could ever imagine. Easily the most diverse, most welcoming group. So if you are ever in the area and you want to play yourself some Magic, come on out to the Gamers Emporium at Wonderland and Oxford in London, Ontario. So, pre-release number 1, I got my pack and I opened it up and saw the promo and looked at the rest of my rares and, well, I wouldn't necessarily say they were the best. Mirage Mirror, I was super excited to play, as I think I maybe even overrated it in my set review coming in. Mouth to Feed, of course, is just solidly good in green. Uncaged the Menagerie, I was not super happy to see. Wildfire Eternal, I was quite down on my set review. Reason to Believe, I think, is pretty bad. My promo was Apocalypse Demon, which I think is real bad. And Approach of the Second Sun, which of course is fun, but maybe not the most consistent way to win in Limited. But of course, in sealed, rares aren't everything, so let's take a look at the various colors in my pool and see what we had. First up, in white, we had access to the Approach, of course. We had some decent removal with Desert's Hold and Sandblast, some good creatures in Oketra's Avenger and Dauntless Aven, and then things kind of fell off. Talkrop Elite's great, but probably not when you have this few white cards. Vizier of Remedies is just a piker in most cases. Mummy Paramount's good if you have a whole bunch of zombies, in which case white offers me 0. Well, I guess there's Dutiful Servants, but that's pretty mediocre, and Ajero's Renunciation, so I wasn't super excited to be playing white at all. In blue, we had a whole lot more cards, but not very good quality. We, of course, had Eternal of Harsh Truths, which is fine, Supreme Will, which I like quite a bit, On Summon, which I'm massively excited to have back. Unquenchable Thirst, I'm still not sold on this just not always being a claustrophobia, and then we kind of fall off from there. Aven Initiate's fine, Drake is fine, and then bad stuff. Compelling Argument, Slitherblade, Cunning Survivor, just bad stuff. So blue was pretty darn quickly cut out of consideration for me. Black had some good stuff. We had a Torment of Venom and a Cartouche of Ambition, both very good, and then things dropped off a giant cliff. Scrounger of Souls is fine. I'd play it if I was black, but it's not making me go into black. Carrion Screecher, ditto. Marauding Bone Splasher, ditto. And then just kind of weak and/or sideboard stuff here. Red, on the other hand, as I was opening my packs, I basically immediately knew I was going to play because I opened an Open Fire, an Abrade, a Puncturing Blow, an Electrify, and a Struggle to Survive. 5 pieces of solid, almost all instant speed removal. Paired with the Wildfire Eternal, which of course gets better when you're playing 5 ridiculous pieces of removal. A Frontline Devastator, Kenra, Brute Strength, Consuming Fervor, other decent stuff. Obviously I'm going red, not really for the creatures, but certainly for that removal. Green as well had some pretty juicy stuff. We already saw the Mouth to Feed, but we didn't see the Ambuscade or the Rampaging Hippo or the Watchful Naga. We've even got a Bitterbow Sharpshooters and then some other filler with Beetles and Nagas and Cheetahs and etc. Off in the gold cards, I didn't include Struggle to Survive here because, come on, you're just playing Struggle. It's just a red spell. In the gold cards, there's not much going on here. There's a Farm, which is pretty decent. Market's just a nice addition to it. Appeal to Authority is okay if you're really going to consistently go wide. Reason to Believe, I'm not a fan of. And On-Crop Champion, it's fine if I was going to play green-white. The artifacts, we had the Mirage Mirror, of course, and then almost a playset of Wall of Forgotten Pharaohs. Womp, 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 womp. Finally, in the lands, we had a whole bunch of deserts. Pair of black ones, even though we probably weren't going to play black. A good blue one, even though we're certainly not going to play blue. A bad Cradle of the Accursed. Sheffet Dunes, however, which, helps me splash those few good white cards, because Sheffet Dunes, of course, is basically free. And then a Painted Bluffs and a Survivor's Encampment. So, after fiddling with my cards a whole bunch, this is what I ended up with. I discovered I simply did not have enough red or enough green to go 2 colors. I had to go 3 colors. But let's take a look at what we have in each of the drops. In the 1-drop slot, we're looking at a Frilled Sandwalla, a totally fine include if you need a creature, and I did, and a Washer Cultivator because I needed to get the color that I needed to get. Green was definitely kind of my base color, although it did compete with red ever so slightly, and I was going to need to go and get those plains now and then. In the 2-drop slot, we had an Oketra's Avenger, a very aggressive 2-drop, I like it quite a bit, and a Defiant Kenra, a card that is ridiculously below rent. There was a day when a 2/2 for 2 was, an okay, decent card, and this set has blown away what we expect our 2/2s for 2 to do, and that is namely something that is not nothing. We also had an Abrade, which is just a fantastic removal spell. In the 3-drop slot, we had a fair bit. We had a Dauntless Aven, a nice aggressive flyer that helps my other creatures block if need be. Pouncing Cheetah, Mouth Defeat of course is very good. Sidewinder Naga, a Watchful Naga, an Open Fire, a Struggle, an Ambuscade, a Desert's Hold to make sure that we were removing anything and everything. And of course, Mirage Mirror. The 4-drop slots held the Wildfire Eternal because I figured, hey, I'm playing 7 pieces of removal. I may as well cast some of them for free. A non-crop champion, honestly not really for the exertability, but just because it's a 4/4 creature for 4. A Frontline Devastator, an Electrify, and a Puncturing Blow to increase the amount of removal in this deck. The 5-drop slot was a lone Bitterbow Sharpshooters, the 6-drop slot was a lone Rampaging Hippo, and the 7-drop slot was a lone Approach of the Second Sun, because why the heck not? We may as well have some fun, right? The land base, if I remember correctly, was 7 forests, 6 mountains, and I believe 2 plains, in addition to a Sheffet Dunes and a Survivor's Encampment to enable my Desert Matters cards. Except not really. The Survivor's Encampment was there because I wanted another piece of fixing, and the Sheffet Dunes, as I've said, is basically a free include. You know, it's basically a plains with an upside. The times where losing a life to tap for a white is going to be a big problem are very, very low. And if I get 3 bonus life off the Desert's Hold, cool. Anyways, the deck was really interesting. I will say I absolutely did not overrate Mirage Mirror. Mirage Mirror was a Hazoret at one point, it was a Razaketh, at one point it was a Plains when I didn't have access to a Plains and my opponent did. Mirage Mirror is a snap first pick for me every single time I see it. It dodges a Braid really well. They want to destroy an artifact, oops, it's a creature. It's a creature, they want to deal 3 damage to it. Oops, it's a land. It dodges removal so well if you have the mana up. Mirage Mirror, just fantastic. Wildfire Eternal, really good if you have a ridiculous amount of removal and such like this deck does here. I would not play a Wildfire Eternal if I had less than probably 6 or 7 instants or sorceries. And why, yes, I did. I hear you asking, did I ever cast Approach of the Second Sun for free? I certainly did on turn 5, and that felt good. I won a bunch of games with Approach of the Second Sun, actually. We had a relatively slow pre-release, and I will warn everybody, as I always do not take pre-release as an indication of what the format's going to be like. Because, spoilers, my second pre-release, I typically ended games by turn 6. Over and over and over and over. Anyways, match 1, I was up against a red-black deck, and we went back and forth. He played Torment of Scarabs on turn 4, which definitely ground me down, but it still took a good solid 12 or 13 turns of making those decisions, and me just not drawing anything for it to actually get there. I am still not sold on Torment of Scarabs. But he backed it up with an epic amount of removal and finally just Inferno Jetted me in the face after Chaos Mawing to take the victory, and I went 0-1 to start. Round 2, I was up against Red-Black again, another aggressive deck. This one had access to Razaketh and Hazoret, who I copied a few times with Mirage Mirror. I was able to pull that one out due to Mirage Mirror and just all kinds of removal for the various creatures that he had access to. Match 3, I was up against somebody who pulled a Desolation Angel Invocation, which was pretty darn fancy and never came down, and I just completely stomped him. It was actually the feature match as well, and so by winning that, I got myself a playset of foil Amonkhet Full Art lands. Round 4, I was up against a deck that had some various colors in it. There was blue, there was red, There was black. At one point, he told me to not think about why it was those colors, and then suddenly Nicol Bolas came out of nowhere, and it really didn't matter that much. He was unfortunately really far behind, and I just continued hitting him in the face, and that was the end of that. Round 5, I faced my 4th red-based deck, this time red-white, and she had one heck of an aggressive deck. I had to face down Chaos Maw again for the 2nd time. That will come back again and again and again, as you'll hear. But I was able to pull it out, in fact, with approach of the 2nd sun and a whole bunch of delay to win that game. So at that point, I had gone from 0-1 to 4-1, going into the last round playing to get into the top 8. And I was up against Sean, who was playing red something. I can't remember offhand. I want to say it was red-black or red-white, but it was, again, a red-based aggressive deck, including Chaos freaking Maw. I hate that card. It costs a heck of a lot of mana, I will say. But boy, can it just demolish a board. But after some back and forth, I was able to take it down and go 5-1 for the day, finishing at 5th place and netting myself 11 packs in pre-release number 1. So after my 5-1, I came back to the next morning for Sunday morning pre-release. I opened up my pool, I took a look at my rares, and they looked a little bit better. And they had a kind of a bit more of a built-in direction for me to go, with a Crested Sunmare, an Adorned Pouncer, and an Hour of Glory pushing me towards black-white, another Mirage Mirror, which of course I was certainly playing, and then an Oracle's Vault that I was certainly not going to play, a Reason to Believe promo this time that I was still certainly not going to play, and a Sweltering Suns that probably wouldn't have made it, but I'd have to see what my red looked like. My white thankfully looked relatively deep to support those 2 rares, with a Gustwalker, a pair of Oketra's Avengers, a foil Vizier of Deferment, a pair of Disposal Mummies, which aren't good, a Solitary Camel, a Retcrop Spearmaster, an Unwavering Initiate, which are all great kind of 3-drop filler, Talkrop Elite, making me really look like I'm going to go aggressive here, a Time to Reflect, so I'd have to keep an eye on how many zombies I have, a pair of Drew's Renunciations that I wasn't going to play, and a Saving Grace that I decided not to play. I'm not still really in on that card, and I didn't get to see it played too much, so I'm still not sure how it's going to go. Blue was again basically instantly cut. I had a heck of a bounce removal suite with an Essence Scatter, Censor, Countervailing Winds, pair of Unsummons, and a Winds of Rebuke, and then nothing really. 3 Avens, all of which are fine, but 2 Cunning Survivors, a Tragic Lesson, and a Hieroglyphic Illumination does not a deck make. Black, to go along with my Hour of Glory, had a pair of Doomfalls and a Torment of Venom, along with a Kenra Eternal, a zombie, a Scrounger of Souls, a Lurching Rot Beast, a zombie, and then some other kind of garbage. Scarab Feast, Laybare of the Heart. It did have a sideboard Liliana's Defeat, which looked, pretty good if I was going to go black. And Hour of Glory and the Doomfalls and Torment were certainly pushing me in that direction. But let's continue on to the red. What was red looking like? Well, there was an Abrade, a pair of Open Fires, awesome! And then really mediocre stuff. A Kenra, another Kenra, Manticore Eternal School, Fling, Violent Impact, Tormenting Voice, Pursue Glory. Red looked like a splash color at absolute best, unfortunately. What about green? Green looks amazing. 3 Harrier Nagas, Ambuscade, Naga Vitalist, and I am showing you every single green card in my pool. I opened on average 1.16 green cards per pack. Not good, unfortunately, but boy, this would have been the start of a great green pool, but yeah, color balance is still seemingly a thing. In the gold cards, we had an Unraveling Mummy, which of course went directly into black-white along with a start to finish, really kind of sealing the deal, as it were. There's a Resolute Survivors and a Reason to Believe, but, red really didn't have enough, and we're not touching the Reason to Believe. The artifacts had the Mirage Mirror, of course, and it had an Oketra's Monument, really finishing it for me. A Sunset Pyramid that could maybe make it in, a Manalith that probably would not if I was only going to play 2 colors, another Wall of Forgotten Pharaohs to give me the playset now over the weekend, and an Oracle's Vault, which I was not going to play. The land base, not really that great. We're not playing blue, so the blue deserts are out. The Painted Bluffs is out. The red desert's out. Survivor Encampment, I'm still totally fine on that, and especially because I did have, a Desert Matters card that I did kind of want to have on. I wanted my camel to have lifelink, so I played the Survivor's Encampment because it's fine enough. It does tap for colors as long as you have a creature, and I did play the Desert of the Glorified, but I will say it definitely felt as bad as I expected when, you don't get to play this on turn 1. Getting this as your land that you need to play on turn 3 or something really sucks. Getting it late, you do get to cycle it, so I guess it's technically better than a swamp, but it is a 2-mana cycle, and that does, typically cost a lot when late in the game means turn 6 or turn 7. It's fine enough, but I still would not play these Cycling Deserts unless I had a really solid reason. So here's what the deck ended up looking like. Just a straight 2 colors, a very solid curve, very just plain, no-nonsense deck. Taking a look, we had no 1-drops, but we had some 2-drops. We had the Adorned Pouncer. Really, really, really good. The 1/1 side of it is kind of crummy, but boy, that 4/4 double strike for 5 is certainly something. Pair of Oketra's Avengers, we know they're good, and of course Gusty Dubs, which we know is very good. 3-drop was absolutely stacked with a pair of Disposal Mummies, which I was playing just to get life off the Unraveling Mummy, Vizier of Deferment, which is decent, Solitary Camel, Retcrop Spearmaster, Unwavering Initiate, the Unraveling Mummy as described, which when you give your double striking cat Death Touch is really good. In the spells area, we had a pair of Doomfalls, although that one Doomfall sometimes was just a 2/2 for 2, but I did end up settling on playing both of them. They're okay enough. It is still an Edict, but that works a little bit better in Sealed, I think. The Oketra's Monument, which, you guys have heard me talk about this. I love that card on turn 3. Boy, that card on turn 3 feels unbeatable sometimes. And on turn 9, it's just the worst top deck you could have ever seen. Start to finish, of course, and Mirage Mirror, real good. The 4-drop slot held a Lurching Rot Beast, which was literally just a zombie for me, otherwise I would not have been playing it. A Crop Elite, which is very good when you're going wide with little 1/1 soldiers off the monument, and a pair of Removal with Hour of Glory and Torment of Venom. The 5-drop slot had a Scrounger of Souls because lifelink, and of course Crested Sunmare, which wanted me to gain life, because who doesn't love a whole bunch of indestructible horses? The land base looked pretty similar to yesterday with a single Survivor's Encampment, and unfortunately not a good uncommon desert, just the Black Tap Desert, which I already talked about. So as I said, the deck was really just kind of straightforward, no nonsense. Play a 2-drop, play a 3-drop, turn 4, play maybe 2 2-drops, turn 5, play a 3-drop and a 2-drop. I was just flooding the board, and if I had the monument down, I was even flooding it just so much faster. It was a nice aggressive deck. I ended many games by turn 6 or so just by attacking for 3 and then attacking for 6 and then attacking for 9. Absolute beating. I will say I absolutely feel like I was correct on the Crested Sunmare. It is just a Colossopede a lot of the time. In draft, you can certainly build it around it a little bit better than I was able to here. The one time that I did get to make horses, I made like 4 of them, and my opponent lost the game very clearly. It was a pretty good deck. I liked it kind of overall. First match, I was up against Dan, who was playing, I want to say green. Yeah, he was playing green-white, and unfortunately just couldn't get there. The removal was too much, and the aggro was just overwhelming. He switched into black-red to maybe get a little bit more removal going on, but the aggro still just took him down in 2. Match 2, I was up against Sean, and again, just aggro. I ended the first game, I think it was on turn 5 or turn 6. The second game I ended a little bit later, turn 7 or turn 8, but with a bunch of horses. Let me tell you, attacking in with something that gains you some life and then playing the Sunmare so they don't even know that you're about to play a 10-10 for 5 is pretty darn good. Match 3, I was up against Evan, who was also undefeated, and he just couldn't keep up either. He had a majestic Miriarch, which certainly got big, but when I was playing a whole bunch of 1/1s off the monument and then copied his Miriarch, things went a little bit south, and I took him down, but I took him down in 3, not in 2. The final match, I was the only undefeated person due to some inadvertent ties, so I was paired down with Garrett, who had one of the Mythic Gods, which is, probably going to be the grown test cards of the format. Thank whichever living or dead god of Amonkhet you want to thank that they are at Mythic. Because, boy, the Scarab God is one heck of a beating. I did take it to game 3 with him. I was almost ready to Hour of Glory his Scarab God, and then he unsummoned it, meaning it just came back again the next turn, and the value just wore me right down, and I ended up losing. So I ended up in second place, netting myself with 6 packs that day, for an overall record of 8-2 and 17 packs. So Crack Pack Tuesday is fully stocked for the entire Hour of Devastation season, which, by the way, is even shorter than Amonkhet. There were 10 draftable weekends of Amonkhet. There are 9 draftable weekends of Hour of Devastation. To put that into perspective, there were 14 of Aether Revolt. So if you felt like Aether Revolt never ended, that was why. But anyways, the format seems pretty darn fun. I definitely think the aggression is still there. As I said, with this consistent 2-color deck, I was ending games on turn 6. Certainly there were slow decks. I think every single round for both pre-releases went to time, but that, of course, is just how pre-release goes. People are playing with cards in inefficient ways. They don't know what they do. They're playing sorceries that they think are instants. There's mistakes being made. So do not ever take pre-release as an indication of how fast the format is. That being said, I think the format has maybe slowed down slightly, but of course it was a pretty fast format to begin with Amonkhet. I will say the bomb rares feel significantly less, and that's probably because they're really locked up at Mythic with, you know, those gods, and a lot of the rares are just horrifyingly bad. As a result, that does make me feel a little bit nervous about sealed and draft going forward. I think there's going to be a lot of just dead packs where your rare is horrifyingly bad and then a bunch of your slots are taken up by deserts. So we'll see how that goes. But on the flip side, you're just not going to be dying to, you know, 7 or 8 nearly unbeatable or out of nowhere game winning rares, which is great. So I think I'm going to like this format so much more. I'm super excited to draft it. I'm super excited to continue playing a bunch of sealed for it. I'm going to play a bunch of sealed in the lead up to Grand Prix Toronto to try to prep for that and maybe, do well and make day 2, because then people will stop saying, who's this Mana Leek guy? Why is he doing set reviews? He doesn't put up records, despite my 8-2 pre-release record. Cough, cough. But yeah, it was a very fun weekend. So I want to hear what you think about the format. I want to hear your experiences. What did you win with? What did you lose with? What surprised you? What was better? What was worse? Let me know everything in the comments down below. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at the Mana Leek. That's Leek, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/themanaleek. You can find me at Twitch at twitch.tv/themanaleek. I'm hoping to stream some of my sealed practice. I'm still just not feeling great, so we'll see if I can get on stream or not, but I hope to. And you can, of course, find me at Patreon at patreon.com/themanaleek. If you do like the content, click that thumbs up button, click subscribe if you haven't already and you want to see more. We're going to be having a draft on Monday go up. We're going to be having a Crack-a-Pack Tuesday of an hour of Devastation pack, talking about what we would take pack one, pick one in a draft. We'll be having box openings and paper draft recaps and all kinds of stuff, plus the usual top 10 lists, Wacky Wednesdays, etc. We've got a Chaos draft coming up on Wacky Wednesday. If you want to see a draft involving everything from Return to Ravnica to Amonkhet, make sure you check out Wednesday. Anyways, if you've got those questions, those comments, or those suggestions, you let me know. Otherwise, see y'all next time.